What's going on, guys? It's your boy Lowe's here, and welcome back to the Front Club. I am super excited for today's episode because we have partnered with one of the leading Tesla accessory manufacturers out there, Hansshow. These guys know how to do it right. They have accessories for pretty much every Tesla vehicle out there. So head on over to their website, check out what they have in stock, and don't forget to use my discount code, Mr. C. Melendez, so that you can save on any and all Hansshow purchases. With that being said, on today's episode, we're going to be installing the recently redesigned and newly improved LED full width taillights for the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y. This taillight conversion kit is absolutely amazing. It really changes the entire look of the vehicle and gives it that new refreshed look that we've been teased with so much on the new Juniper model that's supposed to be making a debut here in the upcoming months. Well, these taillights give it that refreshed look and quite frankly just makes the car completely stand out, which is why I'm super excited to get them installed on my Model Y. But before we do that, let's go ahead and unbox these lights and see what's inside. All right. Once we open it up here, all right, so we got some zip ties. All right, and we have taillight number 1. Actually, this is the taillight here. And of course, this is our middle piece, like that. All right. Wiring, of course, we have our bar piece, which is going to be what connects the two lights. All right. And I assume the same thing on this side. Again, and our cables. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing installed. All right, guys, so the first thing we're going to need to do is obviously take out all of these interior panels. We're going to go ahead and remove the side panels, the floor panels here, and of course, even this panel at one point so that we can access the taillights, be able to remove those and install the new ones, as well as run all of our wiring. So let's get started with removing these panels so that we can get these lights installed. Now the next thing we're going to want to remove is this plastic piece right here, but in order to access that, we need to obviously remove our grommet here. So go ahead and start peeling this up. And once you peel that up, it'll give us a little bit better access to this piece of plastic here. And this should just snap out pretty easily. All you got to do is just get underneath it here and then just start unsnapping it, and you'll hear it unclip just like that. Once we have this out, we'll go ahead and put it to the side so we don't scratch it up. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and remove these grommets right here. These little rivets are what hold down these coverings, so we're going to go ahead and want to remove those. So make sure that you go ahead and grab yourself a nice pry tool like this one, and we're going to go ahead and use that to remove these. So let's get on that. It should pop out pretty easily, guys. As long as you're using the right tools, they should just come up. They pop out. Pretty simple. Now that we've gotten the plastic rivets off, guys, these little side pieces right here should pop out pretty simply. They should just raise right up, and you should be able to just pull them out. Again, they have these little clips, so just be gentle and just pry up, and they should pop right out. We'll get both of those here. There we go. And then we'll put these to the side for safekeeping. And now that that's done, we have 2 more rivets that we got to remove. You have this one right here, and of course another one on this side right here. These are going to allow us to pull this bin outside as well. So let's go ahead and remove those and take this out. All right, take this one out. And just so you know, guys, all these rivets are about the same size, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up because they're all the same exact size. Right, so we'll put those back here, and now we should be able to just remove this by pulling upwards. And just like that, we're good. One last thing, guys, you can remove this little piece right here as well. Just pull right up, and it'll slide right out. Put that to the side. And that's going to give us a little bit more work, space to work with when we're moving these panels here. And then once we do that, you'll be able to see that you have some little screws here, one right there, as you can see. And then there's another one here at the bottom. Those are the only two screws that hold the light. Like I said, there's one right about there, and then there's another one right about here. And what you're going to use to remove those is a small little socket wrench and a 5/16 socket. So go ahead and grab yourself one of those, and let's go ahead and remove these lights. And just so you know, guys, once you twist it off there and give it, one twist, you should be able to take the rest of it off by hand. This way you don't want to lose this particular bolt here. They're not that large. So you definitely want to make sure that once you unscrew it once, go ahead and remove it the rest of the way with your hand, and then put it to the side. Here we got the top one, and then we'll get the bottom one right here. All right. All right, there's your second one. Now, once we've gotten those out, then you have this little thing right up here up top. This just pops right up, guys. You just pull up on that, and that's just to secure this plastic piece, but that should just pull right up. And now we'll go ahead and pop this light out. Now, when removing these particular lights, you do have to understand that there are two little prongs that attach on this side. So you don't want to yank like that. What you want to do is just grab from both sides and slowly start like shaking it a little bit, but putting a little pressure on this side so that the little clips that are here slowly start to loosen, and it should just pop out just like that. These are the little clips that I was talking about. So you don't want to put too much stress on those. You just want to pull straight back. And then once you do that, it should release the light. And make sure also that, you go ahead and remove the little clip here before you start yanking, of course. Same thing on this light. We'll go ahead and pry this open here. And then we'll remove the bolts that are holding the light. Like I said, once you do that a little bit, it should come off easily by hand. Definitely do not want to drop these bolts back here. All right, we'll get the other one. And you definitely want to use a small one, guys, because getting back here, there's not a whole lot of space. So small tools will definitely help make it a little bit easier. All right, we've got those two. We'll loosen the clip from the light so it's easy to remove. Get that out just like that. And now again, we'll remove this little cover here. And now, as I discussed before, this one's a little bit tougher because you don't have, you can't raise this like we did on the charging side. So it's a little bit tougher to get into, guys. If you need to use a safe plastic pry tool, you certainly can do that. I'm going to try to remove it without doing that because I don't want to scratch up the lights or possibly damage anything. So we're just going to take our time here and slowly just pull back like we did before. Oh, that's a little bit easier than I expected, which is nice. Bottom one here seems to be a little bit stuck still, though. There we go. And just like that, we've gotten both of our tail lights out. So now that we're done removing both of the tail lights there, I'm going to go ahead and install these two tail lights so I can be done with that section. But we do need to install these and remove the top ones as well. These need to come out. So in order to do that, we are going to need to remove this plastic piece as well, which, as you know, is also connected by some plastic clips. So it should come out fairly easily. We just need to pry behind here and get it to snap out. Now you do want to remember though that there is wiring here for this, and of course for the light that's here. So you don't just want to let it drop when we do that. We're going to want to go ahead and do that carefully and slowly. Now these are the new taillights, guys, as you can see, and the wiring does have two different wires, which we're going to put through this hole right here. Now this wiring is going to plug directly into our OEM factory plug, really simple there. And these two, of course, are the ones that will go connected to this wire that Hansshow has provided, which we're going to run up this particular part of the car, and of course through the grommet up top. That's how we'll get to the top of the car here, so that we can connect it to the side marker lights up top, as well as the light bar that we're going to install later on as well. So that's how that goes. So we'll go ahead and drop this thing in. As I mentioned, make sure that you push these cables through the hole first. And be careful with this, guys. You're going to want to put them in because there is a hole here, but it's not the largest hole, so you want to make sure you don't damage anything in the process. Make sure that goes all the way in. Everything aligns. And once you have everything in, guys, and you've pulled the cable to make sure that that's come through nicely, then we just push. And then what we'll go ahead and do now is go ahead and reattach the two bolts that we took off earlier. Okay, so now we'll do the same on this side. Go ahead and pass these through this hole right here. Once you get the big one in, guys, then it's a little bit easier to get the other two small ones in at the bottom there. But once all three of them are in, then we line everything up again. As I mentioned, you want to make sure it's nicely lined up. And then as you can see there, now that it's nicely lined up, and now we'll go ahead and screw our lights back in as well. As I mentioned, tighten them by hand first. And then we'll go ahead and use our socket wrench to finish them off and make sure they're nice and tight. Here are our cables. Make sure we have access to those. Now, once that's done, guys, we'll put these caps back on as well. Make sure that they're on there nice and snug. All right, so now that we're done with that, it's time to take off this plastic piece right here on the lift gate. What we're going to want to do is snap this off, but we want to keep in mind that there is a cable here for the light as well as the two speakers. So when we're prying this down and unclipping it from the actual lift gate, we want to be gentle, take our time with it so that we don't end up dropping it and damaging a cable for the light or for the speakers. And once we're done with that, we'll be able to go ahead and remove these taillights right here. All right, so let's get started. When you're taking this off, you want to start closest to the top of the lift gate because there is two pieces. So you want to go ahead and get in between them, use your pry tool, and it should just snap right off. These are held by clips, so it's pretty simple. Just keep pulling it gently and you'll see here, keep hearing them snap off one at a time. You can always pry both sides like I'm doing here, and then that'll make it easier if you go side by side, little by little. But just be gentle with it, pull down, and it should all come out in one piece. All right, and now that we got this piece off, we're going to go ahead and get the other piece off right here. In order to do that, we're going to have to remove some little rivets on both sides. You have one right here and then one on this side here. So go ahead and grab your pry tool and let's go ahead and take those off on both sides. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and removed those two rivets, now we can go ahead and start prying off the plastic housing here on the lift gate. It is secured with plastic little clips, so you got to be gentle with it. Go section by section, unclipping it by prying down softly on it. If you need to use a pry tool, you can certainly do so. Make sure you use a plastic one, but just be gentle with it, because once this comes down, you don't want to yank on it since you have this cable right here. You want to be able to go ahead and remove that cable. Once you do, then you'll be able to set down the rest of the plastic housing here and set it to a side for safekeeping. All right, so now that we've removed the plastic cover off the liftgate, now we'll be able to get access to the screws that hold in the side markers here on the liftgate. You have one right here, as you can see. It's the same socket size as before, and of course, the light cable that plugs into the side marker from the vehicle. That little red clip that you see right there, that is the security clip that holds it in, so we're going to definitely want to go ahead and unclip that. How you do that is by pulling on it, it'll unclip, you'll see it, and then you can just go ahead at that point and yank it a little bit, and it'll come right out. Now that we've done that, you can go ahead and unscrew the light from the actual tailgate using the same exact socket wrench that we used before. All right, now once we've completed that, you can go ahead and grab your pry tool and gently place it between the light and just go ahead and create a little pressure. And these two clips right here is what's holding it in, so it'll pop right out since you've already unscrewed and unplugged it. All right, and now we can do the other side. Same process. We'll use our pry tool, but you obviously want to be gentle with this. Try to loosen it up as much as possible by hand before you do that, but then you can always put the pry tool here and just add a little pressure. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and removed both side markers from the tailgate, we want to clean this whole area as well as this area right here and this side, of course, as well before we install the new lights. I know I'm a little OCD, but I want to make sure everything is nice and clean before we do that. You also want to grab some alcohol or some type of a nice cleaner to clean this whole area right here before we go ahead and do the install, because this right here is where the light bar is going to attach to using 3M tape that comes already affixed to the light. So you want to make sure we clean that nice and good. All right, so now that we're done with that, go ahead and grab yourself some waterless car wash by Chemical Guys, and we're going to use it to clean the lift gate here to make sure that this whole area is clean before we go on to the next step of our install. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, and now that we have a clean surface, we'll go ahead and start doing our wiring. All right, so first you want to identify your cables. This is our taillight cables that come from the actual taillight itself. And then here we have the cable that comes from the vehicle. This one, of course, we're going to plug into the black harness here. And you want to identify which side goes up by looking for this little indent right here. The female side has it as well. Once you see that, it should slide right in. You clip it in. And then once you've pushed it all the way through, make sure to push down on this little gray lock here. That's what's going to lock the harness in place. Once you do that, we can go ahead and plug in these other two outlets right here, which are the ones that will connect to the side markers and the lightning bar. So go ahead and grab the cables that came with the actual Hansshow kit, and we'll go ahead and plug those in. Now, luckily, they made it pretty simple. You have black on black and white on white. So we'll go ahead and plug in the black cable here into the black harness, and then, of course, do the same with the white cable. Now we'll go ahead and tuck these back in here, and then we'll run this cable up the actual side here and, of course, up to the lift gate so that we can go ahead and install the lights and the light bar. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and grab our cable here, and we're going to run it all alongside here across the top and to that grommet there where we're going to pass it through to get it up top here into the lift gate. So let's go ahead and get started on that, and then we'll get on to the other side. All right, so now you want to go ahead and grab the other cable harness. This is going to be for the passenger side. It's the shorter of the two. And then we're going to go ahead and plug in all of the plugs, again, like we did on the driver's side, white to white, black to black, and of course, the tail light to the tail light. And then we'll go ahead and take our cable and we'll run it up the grommet to the top where we can pass it through to the actual lift gate, which we'll do that next. All right, so now that we've got everything plugged in, we're going to run our cable through the weather stripping. We'll start from the driver's side through the weather stripping all the way up right here, and for the passenger side as well. And then those will both come out right here in the back, as you can see from the back of the weather stripping. Now, you want to make sure that you try to put them down flat so that they don't pinch or anything. And then we're going to go ahead and run the cables, as you can see, I already did it with the driver's side, through this pass through here. and then of course out the actual lift gate. Now that is optional. You don't have to do it this way, but I'm just OCD, so I wanted to give it a nice professional look, which is why I ran it through that rubber pass through right there. Now, keep in mind that you don't have to pass it through here, guys. You can just zip tie it to the side here just like that and then pass it through into the actual lift gate as well. But of course, I just want more of a professional finish, which is why I'm going to go ahead and snake it through this particular piece right here. Now, I'm going to use an industrial zip tie. I'm going to snake that through, and then, of course, using tape, I will go ahead and tie the cables to the actual head of the zip tie, and then I'll pull it straight through. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and put it through. I've snaked it in. Now I'll go ahead and I will tape down the cable. This way it makes it a lot easier for me to snake it through. You want to make sure that the heads themselves are taped down so they don't get stuck as you're trying to snake them through. What I did was I folded one towards the back, one towards the front, and then I'll go ahead and tape them down. And yes, I taped it down with masking tape. It's all I could find. But hey, it serves its purpose. Normally I would use electrical tape, but you know, you got to work with what you got. Now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and try to snake it through this rubber pass through here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, is you don't want to yank too hard as you're passing it through. You want to push through one side and pull through the other. This way, you don't end up yanking the heads off of the cable or stripping them or damaging them in the process. So definitely take your time with this. Or like I said before, you could always bypass this step and just zip tie them to the side here. But look at that. If you go the route I went, you'll have a nice, clean, professional finish just like that. Now it's time to go ahead and grab our cables, and what we'll do is we'll run them along the sides, and using zip ties like these that were included in our package, we'll go ahead and secure the cable throughout the lift gate. So let's get started on that. All right, so now that we've ran our cables, now it's time to install our lights here on the lift gate. You want to grab your harness, and you're going to run that right through this hole right here. Keep in mind this hole is a little bit snug, so take your time with it. Then, of course, you have these two plugs here, which connect to the light bar, which we will install right here. Now, first thing we're going to go ahead and do is put our cables through the hole, feed them through there, and just, of course, start with one out first, and then you could always put the other two in through. And then, of course, we can go ahead and push the light through, grabbing on the cables in the back. We make sure that we align the light here, taking our time. All right, and then once you get it in, guys, just push back a little bit while you're pulling on the cables. Make sure that it's nice and flush there, making sure that it went all the way through. And then, of course, we're going to go ahead now and screw it in from the back and connect our cables. All right, so just like with the taillight, guys, you have the same harness. You have your black on black, which we've plugged in. You have your taillight harness here, which we've plugged in. And then, of course, you have the white one. And then this one right here is the one that'll go to the light bar. The light bar does have its own cable as well. So we'll go ahead and connect that once we install the light bar. But first, let's go ahead and install the other side, and then we can test everything out. All right, so now that everything is connected, we're going to go ahead and do a test run here. I'm going to go ahead and turn the car on just to make sure that everything is working properly before we install the light bar. Seems like everything is working. Of course, we'll test out our signal lights, our driver's side, and then, of course, our passenger side. Both seem to be working fine, so I think we're good to go. All right, guys, so now we'll go ahead and install the light bar here, and this gets attached right here to the lift gate right at the bottom. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we cleaned everything, because it does use 3M tape. So this whole area right here needs to be wiped down. I'm going to use some alcohol to make sure it's super clean. First, we'll do a test fit, and then once we've done that, we'll go ahead and stick it on right here. All right, guys, so we're going to grab ourselves some 91% alcohol and a clean microfiber, and we'll go ahead and apply some of the alcohol to the microfiber. We're going to use this to prep the surface where we're going to stick the actual light bar. So make sure that you clean this entire area really well. We want to make sure that there's no impurities on there so that the 3M tape can stick properly. So take your time cleaning that, and then once we're done with that, we can go ahead and install the light. All right, so now that the surface area is clean, we can do a test fit of the light to make sure that everything sits nice and flush. Then we're going to run our cables through the actual hole that we used to run the previous cables. So you'll remove the light, run it through, and then we'll do the other side as well. Once you've ran the cables through, you want to make sure that the lights on the side markers there, that they sit flush. They do have a little indentation where you're going to pass the cable through. So make sure that the wires are going through both of those indentations. And once that's done, you can go ahead and lift the lift gate there, plug everything back into the harnesses so that we can make sure that everything works. And then once you've gone ahead and plugged in the light bar cable into the remaining plug on both sides, then we can go ahead and do a test run, which we'll do now. All right, and there you have it. It seems like everything is working well. All right, guys, so now that we have it nicely lined up, go ahead and take your 3M tape, take a little bit of it out, so this way it's easy for you to grab. And then you're going to go ahead and start pulling along the side and making sure that you push down as you adhere it to the car. This way you get some good adhesion and it sticks properly. Now you want to be careful though, you don't want to end up pulling this off and snapping your little red tape lines, because then it's going to be really tough to pull this back off and be able to get to that. All right. Once we have that, make sure that push down really good. And that's the end result. Now let's see what it looks like once we turn on the car. So there you have it, guys. The full width Model 3, Model Y LED taillights from Hansshow. I gotta say, guys, these things look absolutely epic now that they're installed in the car. And as you saw, it wasn't really a hard thing to install. It was quite simple in the big scheme of things when you really think about it. And they look absolutely awesome. It really transforms the look of this car. It really does give it that Juniper refresh type look. So I couldn't be happier with this upgrade. If you're thinking about doing a taillight upgrade to your vehicle or just any other upgrade at all, head on over to hansshow.com. Check out their website. They have a variety of upgrades and accessories that you can add to your Tesla. And don't forget to use my discount code Mr. C. Melendez, as I stated before, so that you can save yourself some money on any of your Hansshow purchases. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Would you do this upgrade? Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more great content. Till next time.